Beyond Tech.
Welcome to the Beyond Tech podcast series brought to you by Think Beyond TV, where we will be discussing about the world where the technological changes, how AI, robotics, space exploration, and even the field of medicine has made so many changes. And today we are joined with our renowned science communicator, Mr. Malinda Alahakoon, the creator and content strategist, Tech Trek Show. Mr. Malinda, it's nice to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes. So to start things off, when you think about technology, of course, we have to talk about AI. Mr. Malinda, we see that to start things off, that Google just realized the Gemma 4 model.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually happy about their strategy because they're releasing open source models, and at the same time they have the closed source models too, because they're continuously improving their Gemini series. Gemini Flash came in recently, 3.5 version, and at the same time they're releasing the open source open weight models too, and that's actually a good thing for people like you,
yes,
like IT students and people who are having new ideas to develop new stuff. And the most important thing is, like, when we have a open weight model, we can tune the model the way we want, so that's actually a good thing. And at the same time we can self-host it. I'm pretty sure that you have done it, so we can do it in this kind of laptop too, in case you want it. So then the most important point when it comes to AI is per watt performance, the per watt per parameter performance. So they are continuously trying to improve those things, because AI is getting expensive.
Yes.
So usually AI is supposed to be a replacement for human intelligence, but the human intelligence is actually apparently be a little bit better and a little bit less expensive too. So then what's the point of having AI? So they're trying to reduce the cost. Then AI can be far more intelligent than humans, maybe at a certain point at some task, and reasonably priced. So that's the direction that they're trying to walk down with this kind of models, apparently.
Yes, so we saw that the AI boom has driven the cost of memory actually very high.
Yeah.
Even I myself, I tried to buy a RAM and it's over the stratosphere, the price. So
I know.
like launching the smaller Gemma 4 family, it pushes towards advanced reasoning and it brings directly to individual developers like you and me. And also, let's talk about the token economy of AI agents.
Right, yes. Under the current circumstances, when you're using agentic development, or I'm doing agentic research, you have to pay very close attention to the number of tokens that you're spending. Otherwise, like, your token bill, your API cost will be off the roof. And like, let's say you hit a hard limit on that, then you have to stop working. I have seen that kind of situation in many IT firms. So your token limit is, the hard ceiling is hit, now that you can't work anymore because you don't know how to work without AI. So we had to devise strategies to manage the token budget, and at the same time we had to develop models. Maybe we had to fine tune models and use different techniques to manage the cost. Otherwise I don't really think this will be sustainable if we won't pay attention to this kind of stuff.
Yes, and at the same time at Google I/O, the emphasis was heavily placed on smaller, faster Gemini 3 Flash, rather than the new flagship model.
Yeah.
So when the top AI labs are running neck and neck, what does this aggressive competition on price speed actually deliver to the end customer?
Right. So when we are talking about these smaller models, I don't really think 3.5 Flash and equivalent in Claude's Anthropic Sonnet, I don't really think they're smaller models, but if you really look into smaller models, you have to go to China. So what they're actually doing is they use the frontier model, bigger frontier model, as teacher models and training small models. We call that the process distillation. So in that case, we can have a smaller model with reasonable level of intelligence. Then we can host that model in a computer like this, or maybe on a phone. That's the beauty of it. At a certain point, we have to integrate these AI models into day-to-day tools. Currently, we are using most of those tools in a chatbot format, a web chatbot, and yes, we are using tools like Cursor, and then that's slightly different. But Google is aggressively trying to do that. Now that I'm looking at this Google Doc, and the Gemini intelligence is built into this thing. It's not a chatbot anymore. It's in the interface. So they are apparently trying to work into that direction. To do that, they need cheaper and faster models. Otherwise, like, they can't do this. So if I want to edit this document, I can select this text and do stuff with Gemini. And I don't even know that I'm using Gemini. I don't even know that I'm using AI. I'm using feature in Google Doc. So to do that kind of stuff, and that kind of a native integration is enabled, most certainly enabled by faster and cheaper model. And the faster is important because day-to-day people, like when I click something on a user interface, I don't want to wait. I'm not used to wait. So most of the time when we are using AI, it's going to take some time, right? So we are used to it when we are using chatbots, but in this kind of interface, we are not. So yes, low cost, faster models are critical to do this kind of stuff.
Yes, just like we aren't noticing, but AI is everywhere.
That's right, yes.
Yes, so talking back about like AI's energy consumption, I mean, it's a massive operational hurdle right at the moment, and I think UPenn has introduced some really new technologies that could revolutionize the playing field.
That's right. So yes, it's about the energy, and two, it's about physics. I'll talk about physics first. Yeah. So we are we are actually printing chips in silicon wafers, and now that we are reaching the level of atoms, individual silicon atoms, and we are using various different technologies like multi-patterning and high NA, extreme ultraviolet lithography, various different stuff to reach that atomic level, to make the chip smaller and smaller to keep up with the Moore's law. But at a certain point, we are going to hit this hard physical limit, which is the individual atom, the size of individual atom. Then we need a different approach for computing. Now that we are using electrons, so the next approach apparently be photons. We are using lights. We are using light particle as a computing baseline. So the most important thing, as you mentioned, like when we are using electrons, we are wasting lots of energy as heat. But when you're using photons, we don't really have to do that. Then we can use very small amount of electricity and do a lot more stuff. So that's what the Penn State is trying to do, but still it's in the lab. So we have to hope for the best.
Yes, yeah. It could take quite some time until we see it implemented on a larger scale, but at the moment I think that's some really revolutionizing, since like it was UPenn who started ENIAC 8 years ago, and that is still the basic foundation, the electron that runs all your laptop, my computer, and everything that's run here. So seeing the photon break that barriers, and it will be like a real game-changing moment, I believe.
Most certainly is, because at a certain point we had to do this, and at least now that we have a theory. Yeah. So few years ago, we knew that we are hitting this hard limit in silicon wafers, semiconductors. Now that we have at least a theory, working model, working prototype, and the next challenge is to scale it. And that's how things are starting anyways. Like few decades ago, we just had a working prototype of silicon wafers and this kind of lithography machines and stuff. Now that we are scaling it in the planetary level, so we have to figure out how to scale this thing, light matter particle processing.
Yes, obviously, since AI is going to play a huge major part, and we see like the big companies all are aggressively going towards even better technologies, and obviously the power consumption and the RAM consumption is always going to be higher than usual. So yes, we will need the new technologies that's up and coming.
Yeah, we are running out of power now that Elon Musk is trying to put his data centers in space, so we can harness solar energy and dissipate heat to space. Long shot, but we are that desperate. Yeah.
We just talked about Elon Musk, so we really should talk about his infatuation towards like space exploration. And obviously we saw that there have been so many people thinking out, we have to think beyond our borders, like Earth is not just where our future lies. We have to think about where we can go in. We need more resources, obviously, since Earth is running out of its resources, and space exploration has been something that we have been very passionate about, the humankind. And we see that it has not been, we have made some serious leaps. We saw people are trying back to go into the moon, and like it's been like 60-70 years since humans have been back to the moon.
Yeah, the most important thing is like we are thinking that the moon base and the moon exploration is late, but I see that in a different way. I think the Apollo program is way ahead of its time. So you'll be surprised, like if you take a look at the specs in of this Saturn V and its engine and all the stuff that we did back then. It's a huge risk, and it's a surprise that we actually made it. But now that we are trying again, we are not, the US is not trying to like compete with another country. Not exactly, they're trying to compete with China, but back in the days, like their competition was like put some booths and a flag on moon. But it's not the case anymore. They want to exploit the resources. Again, like it's not entirely true that like they are not in a race with another country. The Artemis program, the Artemis Accords, like they're working with many other countries, and it's not a military program like Apollo, but they're still trying to compete with China and Russia, maybe their alliance. So the thing is, they are planning to have a moon base. Moon base is for commercial purposes and scientific purposes, largely for commercial purposes, because moon has lots of resources like helium-3. Maybe in the future we can use those stuff for energy generation, and moon has water. And the best part is, if you take a look at the moon and the North Pole and the South Pole, same as Earth, you have some areas, some craters, they are permanently shadowed by the sunlight. So there can be water ice, and on the ridge you have permanent sunlight because in the North Pole and South Pole. So they're targeting the lunar South Pole, the Shackleton crater, and on the ridge, if you set up a base, you have access to the shadow and you have access to sunlight pretty much all the time. And you have seen that, like all the moon, renders of the lunar rovers and all the machines and all the landers, they have the solar panel like this vertically, because the sun is always on the horizon, like same as in Earth. Like if you go to South Pole, sun is always on the horizon. So they are trying to do that this time, and they are trying to use different private, the commercial partners like Blue Origin, SpaceX, and many other service providers. But there's a catch. So in the moon base, the first payload supposed to be delivered by Blue Origin's rocket, the New Glenn rocket, and the Endurance capsule, Endurance lander to be exact. But that thing blew up.
Yes.
So it's not about the rocket. A few days ago that thing blew up. It's not about the rocket. They have more rockets. They have a recovered booster too, but now that they don't have a landing pad, so whole thing is going to be pushed by like another 1.5 years. So and at the same time, China is raising. China is developing their space station, and they are doing all the rehearsals, and they are preparing their astronauts. They have their landers on the moon already. So they are also progressing with the help of Russia, and yeah, that's the landscape currently. But US is also so desperately pushing the boundaries, and this time they are not trying to do everything by the government, by the NASA. They are trying to have some kind of commercial competition so that they can have better stuff, but that approach has mixed result. So back in the days, US, they had the shuttle program, and then they wanted to build a new vehicle to go to space and come back. So they gave that to multiple commercial partners, but that didn't play out nice. SpaceX did it, but Boeing couldn't do it, and so mixed results. So maybe we have to use a different approach to go to moon, but this time US is saying that they are going to moon not to put the boots on the ground. They are going to moon to stay. So let's see how that plays out.
Yes, I mean, like 60 years back, it was the government who was making all the decisions, and it was they who were mainly involved in space exploration. But as you mentioned, now we see a lot of private companies, a lot of private entities entering the space race, and I think that has created some like positive competition between companies, and even through advancements in technological.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. But but like the space is hard. And the private companies, they have to take huge risks to build space vehicles, and private companies are there to make profit. They don't really like to take huge risks like that, but the government can do, because the NASA is doing all of those stuff for science and the exploration, but the private companies are doing those stuff for profit. So sometimes there could be a misalignment. So NASA has to play nice with all of those misalignment and the costs and everything. Now that they're changing most of their agreements too, because back in the days when they give some kind of contract to a private entity, private company, so they have cost plus approach. That means like whatever the cost it's going to take is paid by NASA and the plus profit, which is a really bad idea. So let's say I am NASA, I gave one contract to you. Now that you have spent 100 million paid by me, NASA, then the program is not delivered yet, but you need more money and again paid by me. Now it's 200 million plus your profit, which is a bad idea. So because of that, lots of companies purposely delayed stuff and overspend money. Now that they're changing their contract to push more pressure on private companies to deliver on time, and they're designing incentives in such a way. So let's see how this play out. But one thing for sure, most of the timeline published by NASA and new administrator Isaacman are way too ambitious. It's going to take way more time than they are expected. Like 2026 objectives are already pushed to 2028 because of that explosion, and most of the technologies we are going to use are unproven, but things are progressing because SpaceX is doing all of those stuff at a certain point, because at a certain point they can deploy the Starlink V3. If they deploy Starlink V3, then we have better internet in all over the planet. They can make so much money through that. So there has to be some kind of financial incentive, otherwise people won't do it. Not like the government back in the days, Apollo program, they did it for pride and the national pride and the exploration, science and that kind of stuff. But private companies won't do that for that reason. They need a different reason, which is more profit. So we have to design those incentives, then we can push it forward. And apparently NASA is trying, but not there yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, like going to space and space exploration has always been like a dream for us humans. So yeah. I think it won't be that far. Maybe the day that we all get a chance to, like, just it's like taking a flight, we get the chance to go explore space. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah, like if Elon Musk and SpaceX team figure out a Starship and the orbital refueling, and space will be cheap. Like if you want to spend if you want to send a kilogram to space, currently it's gonna cost like few $1,000s. It'll be like $40-50 per kilogram, like DHL. So if they figure out Starship, but lots of unproven technologies on the way. But I have a pretty strong feeling that in the next few years, space will be cheap. Like let's say you want to send a CubeSat or small satellite to space. You should be able to do that with your pocket money. We'll see.
Yes. For a long time, the robotic industry suffered from this 5-year syndrome. The reason, like this month feels different, the nature of buyers. Like we see when it talks about robotics, it has gone beyond the traditional robots we see into major companies and even countries investing heavily on robotics and using robots in their day-to-day life. We saw Japan implementing robots as baggage carriers, since they have a labor issue with their country's population decreasing and aging population. What do you think about that, Malinda?
Yes, most certainly robotics is facing a huge growth, and lots of investment are coming into robotics. And I think in the next 10 years, AI, robotics, renewable energy, and there are hot industries. Robotics is most certainly one. But there's a catch, because most of the attention goes to the humanoid robots like Unitrees and various different Chinese models, and they're mass manufacturing it. But at the same time, silently, we are using robots in many other places without even knowing. Most of the car factories, they are using robots to build cars, and they're not humanoid robots, but they are robots. And they're doing useful stuff, they're doing useful economic stuff. And let's say you go to an airport, and all the baggage carriers and all of those devices are partially intelligent, partially not, but partially intelligent. So those robots are doing lots of useful stuff. And autonomous vehicles, they're robots, and they're doing useful stuff. And while most of the non-humanoid robots and smart devices are doing useful economic stuff, the huge attention has gone to humanoid robots because it looks cool. But still, lots of people are wondering, like, what's the real life use cases? Like, you can have a home assistant to wash your clothes, do your dishes. But if I have to bet my money on future, I'll bet on a smart dishwasher and smart washing machine rather than humanoid robot which is operating the existing washing machine and the dishwasher. What do you think?
Yes, I would agree with what you said. Like, we have all these machines that are currently operating, and we have the AI that's made like all the processes autonomous. And yes, like I feel like that the infatuation we have with humanoid robots is something, as you mentioned, like a show. Yes,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we are humans. Like, we are free to dream, and if it's something that we would like to have, like, AI was a concept back then, but now we have come so far, and maybe with humanoid robots we will be able to overcome some of the human limitations we have with other machines. And also, as we said, humans are free to dream. What we want, we build.
And at the same time, I think the robotic industry is craving for ChatGPT moment, right? Remember, like, the AI was progressing for decades, but the ChatGPT made it accessible to the entire planet. So then everybody noticed that, like, I was studying AI for like really long time, more than 10 years, but it was in the academia and in some very specific application. But after ChatGPT, lots of people started using AI in day-to-day life. So now that it's a very normal thing, ChatGPT is like what? It's not just a noun, it's a verb. Like, we are ChatGPTing things, like Googling things. So robotics is also craving so hard for a ChatGPT moment. So at a certain point, there will be a robotic application we all will accept, we all will use. But the biggest problem is the robot's brain. So robot has to understand the world. So for that, we have to build a world model. Now that we have the technology to do it, at least up to a certain point, but there are tiny edge cases. Like, let's say the ChatGPT hallucinate, Claude hallucinate. What we would do, we'll simply ignore it, or we edit it manually. But just imagine a humanoid robot hallucinate, and that's going to be a huge mess and a huge damage. It's a physical damage. So we have to think about those edge cases. Like, those edge cases are plaguing the autonomous vehicle industry too, because, like, let's say autonomous vehicles are working 99.9999% of the time, but remaining tiny fraction might cost us some human lives. So we have to figure out those edge cases, and the current technology, I don't really see how we are going to deal with that kind of edge cases in the physical life. So those are the problems we have to solve. Maybe you are an undergraduate, you can think about this kind of hard problems, how to solve these edge cases in robotics, and if you can solve it, and that's going to, you're solving not $1 million problem, you're solving $1 billion problem. So let's see how that goes.
I mean, like, obviously when it comes to everything, there are acceptable damages that we have to take, but as you mentioned, like, human lives is not something that we need to take easily.
And there's another side to the story too. Like, let's say we are biological robots, right? Biological robots are driving cars, and that's going to cost us some human lives too. In Sri Lanka, on average, 5, 6, 7, it's varying, human lives are lost because of the reckless driving, right? So let's say we automate the entire vehicle fleet in Sri Lanka. Now that the death toll is come down to 2, not 6. So we are saving 4 human lives because of this automation. Are we ready to accept it? Because human drivers are killing 6 humans every day. Robots are killing 2 humans every day. I don't really think people will accept it. Robots are killing humans. We have to think about that philosophical landscape too. because how we feel about robots are costing human lives, because humans are costing human lives. We are used to it apparently. But I remember one incident, one Waymo car crashed into a cat and the cat died. And people are still protesting about it. There are monuments there for that cat. But if you or me do that, that will be a normal incident, right? So people won't care. So we had to think about this emotional landscape too.
Yes, the ethical dilemma that comes with humanoid robots. As you mentioned, like even I would imagine, like there are scenarios where the biological robot, like us humans, have to face even when we are driving a vehicle, and there are decisions that we make in a split second, and I don't know how much the technology has come forth to that level that it's able to tackle the challenges and also face these ethical dilemmas that we mentioned, and the social norms and what's accepted by humans. So yes, there's a long way to go for the robots, but at the same time the developments and the technological advancements they have made is surprisingly good. And let's talk about the vision language action models when it comes to robots, because back then it was you have to hard code everything to get something out of a robot, but now with this VLA module it's so easy, like it just sees what's in its surrounding and it learns, and at the same time it's able to implement its tasks.
Yeah, so the VLAs are actually a byproduct of AI development. So AI development was stuck at a certain point before 2017 because we were trying to use language in a very linear way. That's how we do things. But when it comes to computers, there's a huge processing power, and computers can do lots of things in parallel because multi-core processors and the architectures like CUDA. So in 2017, some team in Google, they figured out how to handle language in an unlinear way. So that's why we have large language models. The same way, from that point onward, all the artificial intelligence models were trying to understand the world using language. Then it became multimodal. Then all the large language models and all the AI models try to understand the world using audio, video, images, plus language. So now that they have much better world understanding, but we have to think about like what kind of world understanding it has. So that's why there are edge cases. But my personal point, this is purely my personal point of view, it's widely different. So just think, we are a biological robot. We have a neural network too, and sometimes we are failing to handle some edge cases too as humans. So I think even at this point, non-biological robots and non-biological intelligence are better than us when it comes to handling that kind of stuff. But the problem is, sometimes the AI models are making mistakes which are surprising. Like, let's say, I don't expect you to stand up and walk to that wall, right? So maybe like I expect you to trip over there, over that wire when you are walking over there, but I don't expect you to stand up and walk straight into that light. AI models are doing that kind of mistakes. So very unusual, unexpected mistakes. So my point of view is we have to understand them. Like, they are a non-biological entity which we created, and they are like a different species. So we have to understand them. Once we understand them, then we know the kind of mistakes that they are doing. If we can accept this, then we can let them grow. So I remember this 2019 academic essay written by Richard Sutton. We call that the beta lesson. So we had to understand, we had to treat AI and robotics as separate species. And if we let them grow and accept their mistakes, like we have dogs, right? We accept the dog's mistakes. Sometimes they chew the carpets and the sofa and stuff, and we are okay with it, right? So we have to accept the mistake of this new species that we created. Then we can let the AI and robotics grow way faster. But again, that's in the philosophical realm and the emotional landscape. We have to think about all of those stuff. But cool stuff. So if we can think that way, then lot more opportunities are getting opened up.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
a very fresh perspective that you brought on, that AI and robotics is like a new species that the humans created, and we need to give it that creative freedom for it to grow. That's like a really nice perspective when it comes
Not
to
me, by the way,
robotics.
Richard Sutton. Not me. Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, you all should read that. It's a not a very lengthy document. It's an academic essay by Canadian computer scientists. If you search for beta lesson academic essay, you'll find it.
Let's talk about the advancement of genetics and the regulatory in evolution. How it's reshaping the medical landscape, Malinda. We saw that the user-centric formats in introduction into pharmaceuticals. We saw the one patient concept coming into play when it comes to medicine, which has been like a real huge game changer, focusing on individual patients rather than the traditional approach which we had. It was like one pill for all.
Yeah.
Comment on that?
Yeah. So when we are hearing about this kind of stuff, it looks like a science fiction, but it's not the case anymore, because there's an interesting story. One Australian tech entrepreneur, by the way, he had a dog. He has a dog. The dog is still there, and the dog had a tumor, and the dog's supposed to be dead by now, but the dog still lives because that tech entrepreneur collect all the genetic data about the tumor and plug that into ChatGPT. Actually, ChatGPT, by the way, it feels like a science fiction. It's not the case. Then he used Grok 2. Then he tried to understand the genetic sequencing, and then he was trying to develop a mRNA vaccine for this one. So then for that he used AlphaFold by DeepMind. Then he actually designed the mRNA vaccine. Then that problem, he had to go through all these regulatory barriers. So can we really do this? Like, you are designing a targeted vaccine using artificial intelligence, a single patient, single use vaccine. So he actually did it. Then because the dog was dying anyways, so the under compassionate use, so you can do that kind of stuff for animals. So he did it and it worked. So that's the best part. So that means like it's possible. And if you simply follow all these standard process, it'll take decades to come up to that point. But he did everything in a matter of months, because he's an individual and it's a dog, and everything is personal. You really love your dog and you want to save your dog's life. So sometimes when we are bypassing those regulatory barriers, we can get the results fast, but at the same time the risk is higher. So when we face a desperate situation, we can bypass it. But this technology, as you said, is possible. The single magic pill and highly targeted to single individual is possible with the current technology, and it's happening. And sometimes like let's say the gene editing is also come into play. Like let's say someone want to make a baby, and let's say I have brown eyes and I want my baby to have blue eyes, so you simply get the genetic sequence and Photoshop it. So we can Photoshop genes now. So then I get a baby with all of my features plus blue eyes. It's possible, technically possible, but again, as we discussed in the AI, robotics and that kind of stuff before, we have to think about the emotional landscape of this. So how people feel about this, and how the human society function with this kind of technology. But it's possible. It's all of these things are possible. If I want to clone myself, I can do it using technology. But the real question is, should I do it? Or if I'll do it, what will happen next?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we saw that there are rules based in scenarios like that. We have the rule that you are not supposed to change the human genome, because we know that yes, it is possible. Like as you mentioned, we can do it, but we have to think about the ethical constraint, how it would affect us, how it would affect privacy at the same time, since like you have so many real case scenarios where it is very useful. Yes, you can, there are diseases that's purely genetical and could be based on individual aspects of that person, and in that scenario, like you mentioned, that Australian tech entrepreneur, it could be really useful, because at the end of the day we are saving a human's life. But at the same time, we have to think about the major aspect, that is how can this affect widely when you think about it in a commercial scale.
And there's a catch-22 situation because like let's say we are using AI. So we are using AI and robotics. We don't really use robotics much. We're using AI, so we understand the danger of AI. But at a certain point, we will use robotics in large scale. Then we'll understand the problems with AI. To understand the problem with gene editing and cloning and that kind of stuff, we have to scale it. Otherwise, we will never know. We are only contemplating. So usually, in the not just in the academia, everywhere we call this a 6-day violation. We are calling it a 6-day violation. You can guess why, because the God created man in his own image on the 6th day. So God created man, and the Western civilization, Western people think that we don't really have the right to change it. So yeah, that's the problem. Like, we have to do it to understand the danger, and to do that, we can't do that because of the regulatory barriers. So we are in this chicken egg situation. So we are contemplating, we are coming up with lots of ideas, and we are doing lots of lab testing, animal testing. But at a certain point, we have to scale this. We have to try this at least once. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Otherwise, we will never know. We are just contemplating.
Yes, so the humans have the ability to play God, but at the same time,
Yes.
we are literally stopped by our own ethics and maybe the legal constraints that we have at the moment.
My idea is like, maybe we should play God. Then we can understand that whether it's good or bad, and what are the good side and the bad side. And if we continue to play God, then we can continue to play God in the right way. But we have to do it at least once. Otherwise, we will never know.
Yes.
Maybe it's a bad idea. Like, if you play God and because of that the entire human race is deleted after some time, don't blame me.
Yes, something to think about.
Yes.
And at the same time, like when it comes to the medical fields, we see so many, like we have this diabetes, cancer, and all these illnesses that require us to take medicine daily. But by now we have created this once a weekly insulin pills, the oral GLP-1 pills. From a broader tech perspective, it's optimizing the form factor and removing that daily friction when it comes to treatment and critical care. Comment on that, Malinda?
Yes, that's a huge progress, because in my family, I have family members who are taking insulin injection every day, which is a painful process. But yes, this form factor and the delivery mechanism plays a huge role. And I remember there was a technology, and you can do a small surgery, and you are placing a small device in the back of your neck. Then it's slowly releasing all the stuff for the next 6 months, which is a pretty cool idea. But now those things are getting even more smarter, even more convenient, and that's pretty cool. And at a certain point, I think that we can have a similar kind of technology, the delivery mechanisms, and the GLP-1 kind of stuff. Like, let's say you have a pod somewhere in your body and it's slowly releasing, then you are not overeating. Pretty cool, right? Overeating is actually a pandemic. Lots of people are overeating. Because we are overeating, we have high blood sugar and cholesterol and that kind of lots of problem, obesity and lots of problem. If we can fix it using this kind of technology, nice. But again, I don't know the limits. Like, let's say the entire humanity is depending on this kind of technology for healthcare, and not our willpower and discipline. I'm not really sure whether it's sustainable. But we'll see. The technology is there. It's a piece of, like, it's a comforting feeling that the technology is available. But we have to think about the sustainability too.
That brings us to the end of our analysis, and we talked about all the recent developments from the AI, robotics, and even space exploration to medicine. We took a deep dive with Mr. Malinda, who is the content creator and the founder of a Tech Track show. Thank you, Mr. Malinda, for joining us. And do you have anything to say to our audience at this moment?
Right. It's really nice that you guys are starting this kind of project to continuously create content about this kind of STEM topic, and do deep dives and analysis and fact base, and no gossip, and love it. We need more of this kind of stuff, and I'm really happy that you are doing this in multiple languages, English and Sinhala. So yeah, I'm really happy that you started this thing, and continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, this is going to be the first episode of a series of episodes where we will be talking about all the new trends when it comes to technology and all these new and upcoming fields in the world. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you soon with another new episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Think Beyond TV.